Blessings, grace, and peace, saints of God. I'm Miracle Evangelist, and welcome back to my channel. Now, I want to talk to you about something today, and I want to talk to you about condemnation and manipulation. But first, before I start, I want to ask you: have you all ever heard this phrase? And I'm quite certain, I'm quite sure that when I say this, it will bring something back to you. Now, if you are trying to die to self daily, to die to the flesh daily, if you are trying to be a man or woman of God against your nature itself, if you are trying, you see, as Paul said in Romans 7, the things I want to do, I don't do it, but the things I don't want to do, that I do. So, it's a fight. When you try to do these things and you try to abstain, you try to, just smoothen out that rugged part, more than likely, you would know you're on the right track once you hear this phrase. Do you think you are better than me, or do you think you're better than us? Or in Trinidad lingo, colloquialism, you feel you better than, That phrase, when people start, that is when the change already starting to manifest out and they could see it. Because before you make an outward change, it's always start on the inside. And most times, in full transparency, that phrase used to bother me so much. That phrase used to hurt me so much, especially when it came from friends, or friends at the time, or family, or whoever it was. You would wonder, like, you think you're better than me, or whatever. But let me tell you something, and it's just the epiphany of realizing that no, that is not a bad thing. When you hear these things, listen, the Bible talks about it, and the Word of God answers it. When somebody is literally trying to catch you doing something wrong, or trying to digging up. Remember how the Pharisees were literally following Jesus like stalkers. Remember that Mariah Carey song, "Why Are You So Obsessed With Me?" I should clip that in this video. The devil's main thing is to destroy ministries, and he would follow you, he would stalk you, he would try to dig information on you, as much things as possible to try to kill your ministry. Because once he kill your ministry, that means he stifle the amount of people that God sends you to minister to. That means they won't get the word that God has placed in you, or the song, or the speech, or whatever it is. And you always hear, "Why do you think you are better than me?" Or "Why do you think you're better than us?" And as I say, that is something quite debilitating for somebody who really like trying to do better. Because for me, in instance, when I heard that sometimes, and most times people said that, it was in terms of me doing something I didn't want to do, in terms of me going somewhere I didn't necessarily want to go, in terms of me partaking in something I necessarily didn't want to partake in. And it's more like, you think you're better than, and you'll feel guilty 9 out of 10 times. You'll feel guilty. I'm sure some of you will associate with what I'm saying. 9 out of 10 times you'll feel guilty, and you'll go and indulge in whatever it is, And I need to tell you that when people tell you these things, be glad. Be glad. Because you know to yourself that, listen, this change is so thing. And sometimes some people, when they know you for a certain way a long time, it's hard for them to accept. Another thing people used to say was that if I try to tell them, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing this," but you used to do that too. The next thing I used to get to me, but then I realized, well, wait. So if I used to drive drunk, and I see the bigger picture in it, and I tell you not to drive drunk, that means you should go and drive drunk. If you understand what I'm saying with the diet, but that is how people would manipulate you to feeling bad, to indulge in certain things. And you need to understand that young impressionable people are not just young impressionable people manipulative on a whole, and they will say things knowing that you would say, "Wait, boy," and you'll feel bad about yourself. Now I need you to know, when people start saying these things, if you feel you're better than me, or feel you're better than us, or different things, or you used to do that too, not because you used to do something doesn't mean, and not because you used to indulge in something wrong, doesn't mean you can't have an epiphany or a awakening and speak out against such thing. Because if that was the case, that literally would mean that nobody would be able to preach the gospel, because we have all sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. So by that standard of saying It's like saying nobody should judge or anything. The Bible didn't say nobody should judge. He said judge with righteous judgment. He didn't say nobody could judge, but people hear little phrases or little text here and there, and they don't really go into the word. But that's a next story for our next day. But when you hear that is when you say, okay, probably I am on the right step. Probably I am on the right, trajectory, because these things are happening. And I have a word from in 1 Peter chapter 4. Right, we're gonna get into it. 1 Peter chapter 4, and it's gonna speak to that. It's definitely gonna speak to that. You understand? Do not let nobody coerce you. Do not let nobody manipulate you. Do not let anybody emotionally string you up by saying or making you believe that you think you're better than anyone. Listen, I was so appalled, disgusted, flabbergasted, astonished, like all things that I even allow myself to think like that, because I can't be better than nobody. Like the things I did, listen, the things I did prior to coming to Christ, it's just by the grace of God that I'm even still here. Things I survive, and I could never say, and that is why God will allow you to go through certain things, because I not going to feel like I better than nobody when I do things, and a majority of people out there, things that I can't even, things that I wish I could see on camera, but I can't, because I don't want to incriminate anybody else, but God is so great, so people will tell you that to make you feel that kind of way. You understand? 1 Peter 4. Let's start with, okay, therefore, verse 1. Since Christ suffered in the body, arm yourselves also with the same attitude, because he who has suffered in his body is done with sin. He who has suffered in his body has done with sin. The reason why I came to Christ is, if you saw my testimony, is because of the suffering I went through. Right? It's because I suffered in the body, still kind of going through that with this diagnosis I got. But it opened your eyes and it showed you that there's more things out there. Before, I had this immortality complex. I had so much things going for me. I had the cars, I had the different things, was lining up. I was involved in a lot of illegal stuff and things, but he who has suffered in the body is done with sin. The word of God says that literally, 1 Peter 4. As a result, oh my goodness, hear this one. As a result, he does not live the rest of his earthly life for evil human desires, but rather for the will of God. For you have, listen, literally all of my energy, the vast majority of my energy, and many other people's energy who went through a particular thing and got a revelation of God, they pour their energy into ministry, they pour their energy into whatever it might be regarding God, right? For you, this is the most important part of it. Verse 3. For you have spent enough time in the past doing what pagans do, living in debauchery, lust, drunkenness, orgies, carousing, and detestable idolatry. Hear this, this is the cherry on top. They think it strange that you do not plunge with them into the same flood of dissipation, and they heap abuse on you. But they will have to give account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. For this is the reason the gospel was preached, even to those who are now dead, so that they may be judged according to men in regard to the body. But I live according to God in regard to the spirit. So the Bible is saying, listen, they think it's strange that you're not running around with them doing the things you used to do. They think it's strange that certain things you used to indulge in, you're not anymore, so now they can say, well, you feel you better than me, or you feel because you ain't want to come to this line with me, or this party, you ain't want to drink with me, or you ain't want to do this, you feel you better than me now. I know you all these years, I know you for a long time, I know you. And that's the next thing too. The reason why Jesus couldn't do miracles didn't do miracles when he went back to his hometown is, some people when they grow up with you and they see a particular way, they just don't believe in you. That is the only place Jesus went to when no miracles were performed. There's people watching you as just a little carpenter boy's son, or just a little drunken woman's son, or just a little prostitute woman daughter, or whatever. People just know you how they know you, and sometimes they relate that forever in their brain. So they think it's strange that you don't really indulge in certain things anymore. They think it's strange, they're shocked. Why this person not doing this? We used to do this all the time, we used to do this for years, but you're not doing it anymore, something wrong there. You understand what I'm saying? Do not feel bad about this anymore. Listen, I was made to some testimonies to come about. I pray on that, right? But one of the things I will say, something had me feeling real bad recently, a few months ago, and I am well, I went to England and all that stuff, and you know, I have some health issues and stuff, right? Come to find out it's my adrenals and all that. I'll give you all the whole rundown on that, right? This adrenal issue and on two other things, right? And huh, some particular individuals wanted me to get married over there, right? For citizenship, right? And granted, a few years ago, I would have, because over there is nice. Over there is better than a lot of things down here, So I definitely would have, and but because, as I say, I changed my life, and because I know what the word of God says about marriage, God will see it as a contract. God will see it as just you sign a paper and then you become a citizen in somebody's country to get good health care or to get good opportunities and all that. God will see it like that. We would see it like that. To be carnally minded is dead, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace. And the more I try to get these individuals to see that, listen, God will see it like that though. I know you're coming in the right place, but God will see it like that. It's not just a contract. To God, it's not just something that, what if I would have did that, stay there, get the citizenship, and probably something worse happen. And it was a tough time mentally for me because one, I couldn't get people to understand that I'm not doing this. And in terms of, as I said, that same abuse that was piling on. And two, it's like, wow, what will it profit a man to gain the world and lose his soul? Listen, I don't care if I have to come back and struggle or whatever or deal with this health thing, but I trust in God, because if God chose, He could heal me instantly, or He could allow me to continue to carry this cross and still preach the gospel. It doesn't matter. But it started looking like I think I'm better than people or anything or something like that, because they would have done that, and to me it was like, wow, a few years ago, as I said, I would have done it. This, I definitely, it wouldn't even have to be a second thought, but it's like, how can I do that? How can I do that and get in front of the camera? And it's not even that like I hold it under a righteous thing, because I do stupidness every day. I think foolishness every day. Right now I am flooded with full transparency. I'm very angry. With certain situations, I'm very, very angry, and it's literally a fight every day. To just leave that be. So it's not like that. It's just like, okay. You understand what I'm saying? But people will think it's strange that you don't, or especially if you pull them up now, like, okay, if I imagine somebody doing something, hey bro, it's not really the right thing, but we used to do this wasn't always an issue, but people find it strange that, and listen, I also used to feel the same way too. There's not even a one-sided thing. I see it. I really do see it. And the thing is, when I told a particular person this as well. Like, man, you feel better or something, like that kind of way. I told that person now years ago, because I genuinely felt like that. But spiritually, things must be spiritually discerned, and you can't see these things. You literally can't see things, so you always feel, or you always react in the flesh and feel like somebody trying to think, but you're better off without. If God sees fit, then He'll bring it back. But don't let anybody manipulate you or coerce you into thinking that, yeah, but probably I shouldn't do it. Yeah, probably, probably, because that could lead you to hell. People will lead you to hell with that. And you can't stand before God in judgment and say, oh God, this person make me feel bad for saying I'm better than them. When you are trying to do right, people always try to remind you of who you was. Or people always try to remind you, like, okay, well, you just do this, you just do that, you just do that. Chasing you down, trying to catch you doing something wrong just to prove, you're not so perfect, like, you pretend to be, you're not so perfect, like, literally trying to chase you, literally trying to dig up information, trying to dig up this, but once you real with yourself and you pay things out there, what else you could think? I see many things. I got involved in a lot of illegal stuff.